Hello, I'm Joey, and I'm here to talk about some neo-retro news. If you're a fan of just about anything on YouTube, one of the most important parts of the internet, at least culturally speaking, this might be of interest to you. I'm talking about some videos I think are very interesting and I think should be talked about a little bit more. So I'm talking about final bosses, something that happened to the Cult of Dusty, and also something only ReviewTechUSA seem to be talking about, and, well, I would have talked a bit more about some of this, and I would have talked about it sooner, but I actually have been having computer trouble every now and then, and that has been slowing me down. Plus, life happens. So these are all things I wanted to talk about, and am finally getting around to talking about. This is all stuff you can discover on YouTube. At least that's where I found out about all of this. I'm here to talk about some neo-retro news. Basically, news about stuff that could be any way connected to retro video gaming or old comics or whatever. In this case, we really get a fair distance from that subject. Yeah, I don't really limit myself to that subject too closely. Well, here I am at this seemingly random location. Ooh, look, there's a boat. Seemingly random location to talk about, well, stuff related to video games and the internet and so forth, and this one's going to be kind of...
I really do believe that YouTube is going to be an incredibly important part in the evolution of our society.
full of YouTube related stuff.
Anybody who understands memetics and how memetics works and how memes spread really understands how important YouTube is.
One thing that I think is worth checking out, which well, it's not YouTube, so I don't get around to checking it out that much. I don't know. I mainly go to YouTube for my, online entertainment. And let's see. That boat's still over there. Anyway, I took a picture of a boat. Anyway, back to the story. I normally don't get around to checking out much other than YouTube. I'm a fan of GameSack. So I normally see GameSack on YouTube. When I get home from work, I usually just want to pull off my work clothes, flop down in a chair, and often fall asleep in front of the tube. The YouTube. Well, sometimes I have the television on as well as YouTube. I can multitask. I can watch television and YouTube at the same time. In fact, very often that is what I do. Multitasking is a very good skill. But now they're also going to be on a website called Final Bosses. Final Bosses! And I also like the Happy Console Gamer and Alpha Omega Sin. They're there too. And you know what? I get a little more free time on my hands at the moment, so I'm making a mental note to go check out Final Bosses. I think other people should too, because it's really kind of interesting. You see, the thing about YouTube is it is great. YouTube is wonderful, but it's not perfect. While lots of content creators want to create interesting videos, thing is, if you're reviewing stuff, you probably are going to show little clips. Fair usage of other media. And those media companies, sometimes they don't take fair usage into account. Sometimes they just outright, no, you're not allowed to do that. And as a result, well, a lot of videos get taken down. It makes it a lot harder to review things by certain companies. It can be quite a problem, actually. So, since YouTube isn't always the safest place for content creators if you're reviewing things like video games, which often require use of video game footage, or movies and anime, stuff like that, you might want to find your own website. In the case of GameSack and some other guys, including Alpha Omega Sin and the Happy Console Gamer, others that I'm a fan of. I like all three of those, and there's other people there too. I think 8-Bit Eric is the name of one of the guys there. I gotta check out more Final Bosses. It looks cool. I've watched a little bit of GameSack there, or one of their videos that they posted, and I just never got around to going back. The unfortunate thing about something not being on YouTube is it's not on YouTube. So I think it's a good idea for people to remember and talk about some of the YouTube-related sites, or the sites other than YouTube, where you can see the YouTube content creators expand. I think that's really a good thing. So, I don't know, let's go watch Final Bosses.
Final Bosses!
I'm just suggesting it. Maybe I'll stick an external link in this video, and at the end of the video I'll have links to some random links to some of my other videos. Okay, well that's one thing. Final Bosses, it's worth checking out. I think you should. What else? Well, speaking of content troubles on YouTube, YouTube is, well, it gets content all the time, so it's hard for YouTube itself to review that content. So often people are falsely flagged for problems, and I believe the Cult of Dusty had a problem with that not too long ago. And something else I wanted to talk about that I never got around to talk about, I've been having computer problems and other things distract me, slow me down. But anyway, the Cult of Dusty, and this has nothing to do with retro video games or old comics or anything to do with that, but the Cult of Dusty got flagged for, I guess, saying some stuff that people didn't like, and I don't think it was the most controversial thing he ever said. And yeah, I don't know all that much about all the details, but if you look for it, he wants people to mirror the video talking about how he got flagged for, I guess it's basically telling his life story. I didn't see the video that got flagged, because it got flagged and taken down, so it's hard for me to judge it. But knowing his YouTube channel, I don't know, I'm pretty sure whatever happened was unfair. I recommend looking into it, checking out the Cult of Dusty's stuff, because it's usually pretty cool website, pretty cool YouTube channel. So what else can I say? Well, I not that long ago did another video talking about how you can actually save YouTube videos to your own hard drive, but I've already talked about that. Along came devices like the U-matic, the Betamax video cassette players, and the VHS video cassette players, also known as VCRs, because video cassette recorders, because they could record, video. You could, instead of just watching Transformers, you could actually have your own physical copy of a tape, a physical copy of the media you could play yourself. So I kind of like the idea of being able to save some of my favorite YouTube videos. There is a site out there that will, if you take the address of a YouTube video you're watching, change the extension before the word YouTube in it. Alright, at the start of the address for YouTube, just replace those, replace those 3 W's plus the period, or the www dot, replace that with the letters SS, and thus SS is part of the same word as YouTube in this case. Alright, then once that is done, hit enter, and let's see what page loads. And saveform.net comes up, and it's loading, and it gives us the option to download that. Yeah, there's a site out there that lets you do that, and I talked about that in a previous video. What else can I say? Oh, how could I forget this? YouTube related things. Something you might want to check out. ReviewTechUSA discussed this. I'm surprised few people have brought this up. I'm actually shocked this hasn't been spoken about more. Look this up. There was a woman out there who made a video of her baby. Yeah. You're either into that or you're like, why are you even talking about that? And yeah, it's like, why am I even talking about that? Yeah, somebody made a video of their baby. So what? Well, apparently it was really, really popular. and it had the baby dancing around to some music, which I actually haven't seen the video yet, so it's probably worth checking out. But the music was not very clear, apparently, but to those who knew what it was Prince. Prince. Does he go by Prince now? For a while there, he wanted to be called the artist formerly known as Prince, and his name was just a symbol. Or, as Bill Maher had commented, this guy's too good to be known as a normal name like the rest of us carbon-based life forms. Now he's a font. And as Bill Maher suggested, calling him the font, I'd call him the font, but I think he did go back to calling himself Prince. So, Prince Font, this music, which was heard in the background, apparently is no harm to anybody's music sales. It's not really quality you'd actually listen to. But it's recognizable that somebody could tell, oh, that was Prince playing in the background that the baby was dancing around to. So Universal Music, flagged the video.
Oh no!
They had it taken down. So I thought that was kind of weird and interesting. But there's nothing special with that. Lots of videos get taken down because of music that can be heard in them. What's special about that is this woman, she sued.
Yeah! Stick it to the man! Yeah!
She sued. She fought back. That's kind of cool. So she sued Universal Music. And guess what? She won.
Yes! Yes!
She won.
Yes!
That's awesome. Apparently it was obvious that Universal Music did not take into account, fair use or the content of the music or the quality of the music, whatever. They didn't take into account the proper situation, fair use. They didn't take anything into account. They just axed it. They just, no. That's to go away. Can't have that. That was Universal's attitude, and apparently they weren't fair about it. They weren't fair about fair use. So Universal Music actually lost that lawsuit. Yeah, so that's worth looking into, because if you're a content creator on YouTube, this could be considered good news. You could be like somebody who wants to talk about retro video games. You could be somebody that wants to talk about new video games. You could be somebody that wants to talk about movies, music, whatever. Or you could be just interested in the people that are doing that and interested in the industry that they're involved with. And this is something really interesting. So I'm surprised I haven't heard more about this. ReviewTechUSA did a video on this, and I recommend checking out that video. And you know what? While you're at it, look it up. Look up all the information on all these subjects you can. Look up Final Bosses. Look up the woman whose baby danced around and to Prince music and ended up in a legal battle with Universal Music. Look up what happened to Dusty from Cult of Dusty. Yeah. All I can say is good luck to Dusty from the Cult of Dusty. Hooray for the woman who sued to protect her video of the baby dancing, and good luck to Final Bosses. And if anybody else out there is creating websites for content creators that put their stuff on YouTube as an alternate location, that's worth looking into, because YouTube is wonderful, but YouTube, they kind of have to give in to the other media companies, because those other media companies, they have a lot of money and they have a lot of lawyers, and YouTube might be fighting for, might be fighting against censorship, might be fighting for free speech in China, but they don't have time to fight over every single video that goes up on YouTube or on their own service. So if the media companies want to if the media companies want to abuse fair usage, then, given the amount of content that goes to YouTube, it's going to take more than YouTube itself to police that sort of thing. Final bosses. ReviewTechUSA. Final bosses. Final bosses. Well, there sure has been a lot of explosions in this video. Anyway, here's some links, which I'm going to attempt to put in the video itself, assuming you're watching this on YouTube, to some of the important videos I've talked about here, including GameSack's ad for final bosses, ReviewTechUSA's video, and of course a video I've referenced here, done by Dusty from the Cult of Dusty, talking about the problems with censorship on YouTube and in general how important YouTube is. Then there's the Cult of Dusty's regular videos. I think they're worth checking out. And what the hell, a random GameSack video which I think is interesting subject matter, and I might even see if I can't get a link to the final boss's own webpage up here as well too. So all of this is interesting subject matter, I believe, and if you want to continue watching this video, you can always just rewind it and go back to these links. But we can put up some of my videos. And of course, here's some links to some other videos that are part of the UniMultiVerse overview lineup, including a video which I reference here, where I talk about the retro video game system in the Nintendo NX, where I also reference a little bit about saving YouTube videos to your computer's hard drive. Hey, wait, what's going on with my computer here? Damn it!